Sean Lucas,
Here.
Justin Orff,
Here.
Jared Giddens,
Here.
Aaron Peterson,
Here.
Darlene Graham.
Here.
Amy Hookstrap.
Here.
Please join me for the Pledge of Allegiance. And we'll move on to the visitor section. Do you have any visitors tonight, Elizabeth?
Mayor Still, I do not have any visitors signed up this evening.
Okay. We will leave the visitor section open if anyone would like to speak on an item not on the agenda tonight. We have a lot of troublemakers in the audience tonight, I see. So we will close the visitor section and move on to our presentation section. Mr. Russell.
We're green. We'll let him get this pulled up. Well, we once again threw a party in downtown Nixa, and it seems like everybody came. So it went very, very well. What you have in front of me, I'm going to kind of go through with you tonight. The first page we'll be starting with is by the numbers, and we'll wait for Drew here to get a little PowerPoint pulled up so we can follow along at home. I was very proud of our community. It was just 2 days of setting up in the rain, was trying on everybody involved. I literally made a joke about how many sets of underwear some of us had to go through, but it's okay. It is what we do, and we knew that's part of the risk that we have with an outdoor festival is that weather can come into factor here. So, just keep filling. Just keep going. Keep going. Okay. The squirrels are still spinning. All right, very good. All right, so we'll just kind of dive into it. We'll see if Drew can get us caught up here. I had some cool pictures I'm going to share with you. Maybe we can get that pulled up in just a minute. All right, just by a show of hands, who had a chance to make it down to the big event? All of you. So you saw what we had going on, right? So in the crowd, how many did we have that made it to the big event, right? So quite a few of you. Very good. Okay, so by the numbers, kind of a fun thing here. At the very last minute, we had to order 21 ton of half-inch rock just to try to get the ponies underway. And a big thanks to the City of Nixa Public Works. The Streets Department came over with machinery, and they came over with shovels, and they helped me get that spread out as we were trying to get this thing set up, as it was just a deluge of mud in that area. We had even prepped it before with wood chips, and then another big rain came, so that was kind of a fun fact. And then, of course, the trailer did get stuck, and thankfully Mark Anderson with On-Site Construction had his backhoe down there, and we were able to back them in, and then later on Sunday, we were able to get them out. Nixa Hardware, we made several trips. I see members of them are here tonight. We had to get 16 bales of straw. We probably could have used more just to spread throughout the Fought Administration building, and it wasn't used in the past. We used to use the straw as seats. Remember that, Darlene? It would be in the tents, right? Well, no, we had actual chairs for that. This was just to make sure that people weren't stepping in mud as they were, and not ruin the grounds of Fought Administration building, so I thought that was kind of funny. And then, of course, we had to have that for that farm zone as well. This year is something new. We were really trying to strive for public safety and to try to make sure that we took care of our downtown district, including the vinegar plant and secured parking and some of the residents. And that include actually paid workers to man spots that it's hard to get volunteers for. So I just want you to know, working with PenMac, we actually had 67 plus hours of paid workers that we had working sucker days. And as we look at growth opportunities, you're going to see that that's actually going to be something that we are going to want to do more of in the future. Okay, cool. Oh, I thought you would have had the impact font. That's okay. We can go to the first slide. Drew. Oh, I've got it, don't I? Okay, so there we go. There's a cool picture of downtown. We made something new this year. We stole an idea. That's a kiosk, and we saw several people seeing that. It had a really cool display of the history of Nixa Sucker Day Music, Arts, and Crafts Festival, or in the past, just Sucker Days. And then, of course, our sponsors, chamber events, had a schedule of events, and people seemed to really enjoy having that as part of a, hey, you are here type map, which we thought that was kind of neat as well. Okay, Drew's getting me all set up here. Very good. Okay, here's a cool picture that Dolores Albers took. I think that's just kind of really, truly, we had, just a really cool crowd all the way on Saturday. Friday night finally kicked in after the rain kind of subsided just a little bit, and that's to be expected. I think we would have had a few more people with us on Friday afternoon, but they all chose to come back on Saturday, so that was exciting. But we still had good crowds on that evening, and that is actually on Saturday evening is that picture there. Here we are, again, another cool picture, kind of looking northbound there on Main Street. This was some of the aerial photograph that we contracted with a commercial drone footage expert. He actually had some technical challenges with the machine, but that was just one picture during the day that kind of showed an overview of our downtown district and kind of what it looked like if you were a bird's eye view looking southbound there on Main. As you can see, if I could zoom in there, which I can't, you can really see that the crowds were very, again, I think it was just a great overall well-attended event. In the year one, when we took it over, we did have some complaints, but we didn't really have any this year. We fixed a lot of the ADA access issues that we had. Parking for ADA is always going to be a challenge. It just will be until we come up with some sort of really cool shuttle service, which could be a future growth opportunity. There's limited spaces for ADA access to park, so we can't really market that. There's a few in the Nixa schools and a few spots in the Nixa First Assembly lot and technically in the Bridge lot where they can get out and go down sidewalks, but that's something that we had problems with in year one. Because of the way we restructured the event, made wider lanes down Main Street, we were able to eliminate a little bit of that. Great participation from several groups, including Nixa Schools, Nixa Fire Protection District, of course, our Nixa Police Department, and so many more that helped make this happen on the civic level. And then, of course, we had over 38 different businesses that actually participated in Sucker Day at some point, at some level. As you can see, our premier service was actually, they're in here tonight, but Rich Callahan Air Services, Heating and Cooling, and All Service Professional Plumbing was our premier. And, of course, our partnership with the City of Nixa and so many more that made this happen. So not only was this great for our local downtown businesses, this gave a lot of exposure to other businesses where in the past, Sucker Days may have had 4, 5, or 6 key sponsors. This is allowing our local businesses to really have an impact. And some of them had booths on location, and some of them chose not to, and that's okay. But they did have signage or some sort of recognition throughout the event. Okay, cool. Moving back into the numbers, I think is the next slide, if I can get it to work there. Excuse me. Let's see. Okay, and so you can try to do there we go. All right, so there you are, back up with the numbers. 104 different arts, crafts, or food vendors. That's the biggest that we've ever had the event. We have a vision to make that just a tad bigger in 2022. We actually turn away 20 or 30. We will hit a max of about 120, 130 is kind of where I see it going, but that's okay. That means it fills up. We can set a budget to that. We know what that's going to look like. One of the things that we learned was if there was a complaint from the vendors, those who were in the grassy area felt like maybe the traffic wasn't as good. Similar to how we do our Nixpo event, our Business Expo, we'll have tiered locations. So you want to be on the street, it's X amount of dollars. On the street with power, X amount of dollars. And we're going to work on getting that set up. We actually are working on a new, what we call the Experience Nixa App. We actually have a really cool app that we're going to be unveiling soon for our community, and this will allow them to go in and actually register online for those locations. So that way, maybe if you are in the Fault Administration Building, that may be back to around $60 or $70, where if you're on the street, could be as high as $150. So the demand is there for that. We had people already saying they would pay double to be on Main Street itself. So that's encouraging. What else do we have? 32 volunteers participating, and that's a give or take. I think Brent and I tried to run the numbers this morning, our Vice President of Operations, and that's roughly what we think we had. If the truth be known, probably so many more when you include things like what was going on with the Nixa Ministerial Alliance and the outreach that they were doing, what was happening with the art department and the things that they were doing, the volunteers. We didn't keep track of how many volunteers helped with Little Miss Main Street pageant or the Cornhole, just kind of who checked in with us, who got one of our T-shirts and helped us out at some level. So we probably could have hit 50-plus volunteers that were participating, and that's really cool, guys. That's something that we saw in our strategic plan that we did earlier this year, was people were looking for more ways to reach out and to be a part of this community, and we're going to see that grow in the near future. I think people want to be a part of it. Even getting involved with the Historical Society and getting them engaged in this was really impactful for that group as well. We sold roughly 1,700 ride wristbands, and those were the $5 a piece. I actually was anticipating a few more than that. I think Friday we would have had a few more than that possibly, but that's okay. That was actually a good number for us, and with the sponsorship and the cost and the increased cost and the light towers, we'll have just about enough to cover those rides for this year's cost. We'll see how that goes out. One thing we have an opportunity, Mayor Steele was a part of this, is we need more suckerfish. And we had about 200 that were given out, and so that made it go really, really fast. And when it went really, really fast, the donation level was down just a tad more than when we had 300 in the year before. So one of the big plans we're going to have to work on as a community is how to get more suckerfish back at Sucker Day. I think we've got some people that want to be a part of it. We have some cook crews, we have some volunteers that want to engage in that, so I think that might help us with drawing attention to that. We had 26 Little Miss Main Street pageant contestants, so that was kind of cool. That was a record number for them. We had 25 teams in the Cornhole Tournament, and that's going to generate almost $850 towards our police officers, the officers of Nixa Police Department, through the Nixa Citizens Academy. The awesome, amazing. Yes, that group there, Darlene, that you're a proud member of. That was a fun time. We have some plans for that next year. I'll get to that in just a few minutes. 16 talent show participants. That actually was really cool. That's about as long as we wanted that show. It went really well. We had some really talented kids down there. And Amy, you were one of our judges. Thank you for being a part of that. And yeah, it was really neat. It was raining just a tad, but not too bad. We have an idea how to impact that. I'm going to get to that in just a minute on growth opportunities. 15 live music performances between the gospel stage and the big top, or the headliners and the big top. I thought this was a fun fact. You saw that in that picture, 7 light towers in downtown Nixa lighting up Nixa. That really made a big impact, and it really helped us with breakdown at 10 o'clock at night and getting people out of there safely, which we're going to talk about in just a few minutes. We did 5 different live street shows, and that included the Nixa High School Crimson Corps marching band with their drum line marching down Main Street. We had jazz dancers. We had choir performances, a little bit of everything. We want to expand upon that in 22. I thought that was a really neat element that all of a sudden, here comes something cool. We had cheerleaders doing performances, so I think that's going to grow as well, and that's just more ways to get more civic groups or more community events or community organizations involved in Sucker Day and participating at some level. And then I thought this was kind of funny here. You can see we had one 40-foot long trash container full. That picture was actually taken Friday or Saturday morning early after we had dumped the night before. We had 16 porta potties, and we had one. We're probably going to have to double that. And just to give you an idea, Chris Snyder with the Republic Services donates that and all the trash bins that we had, which is great. We still have to pay for the porta potties, and we had 16 of those, and that's about $2,500. So we're going to have to be doubling the size of that in 22 to facilitate these crowds, especially when we look at our growth opportunities. So just kind of some fun numbers there for you. People ask me all the time, "Hey, Chris, how many people did you have?" I have no clue. A lot, and a lot, and a lot just kept coming and coming and coming, and even all the way into the evening. And, you know, we estimate somewhere around 1,000 inside the tent. We estimated somewhere around maybe 20+ thousand by the time you look at everybody that was in downtown Nixa. But we really don't have a way of tracking that, so there's really no way to know. Okay, growth opportunities for 2022. This is kind of where I'm seeing this event go. Now, we have a lot of investigation to do to make this happen. Excuse me. But let's get to it. First of all, we cannot have everything happening. We want to make sure that we don't lose anything that happens with Nixa Sucker Days that we've already created, so any of the events. One of the things that I'm proposing that we'll probably look at doing is moving the parade back to Thursday night at 6 p.m. First of all, this is freeing up our Nixa Police Department and the Public Works when they need to be they can focus just on the parade and not have to worry about an event downtown. Now, we are going to do something downtown that evening, but it's going to be very, very special for our VIPs, our sponsors, our volunteers. We're going to have a meal. We're going to thank them, kind of give them a rah-rah, maybe a little karaoke or something, but something fun for them after the parade, just kind of getting them pumped up and ready to go for the next couple of days. We'll do normal setup in the morning, hoping to open up by 1 to 2 o'clock again. I think that'll be possible with the new schedule from Nixa Schools, and also with the help of Happy Days Daycare and working with them. That was a little bit of a challenge with them when we lost our back parking lot because of the mud and the van getting stuck. However, we did work through that, and Happy Days wants to make sure that they can continue to support Nixa Sucker Day Music, Arts, and Crafts Festival. All right, so we'll be up and running, and then Friday night, I want to move the talent show to Friday night. What we found is gospel music in the afternoon afternoon, plus the parade happening. A lot of things happening there, but I think if we have 16 talent participants or higher, maybe 20, that's going to bring that early crowd coming into downtown. As you saw, Amy, is that we had a lot of families there. We had grandparents. They were there to watch that day. So we would move that to downtown that evening. And then that night, some sort of Friday night youth concert for the kids on that stage. Probably youth church focused to some level. High school and college age, something safe for them to do, get excited about the event. My daughter came up to me and absolutely was just ecstatic and loved it. Her friends were talking about it. And I want to give them a reason to come down. And that's something that we can do tying in with the Nixa Ministerial Alliance to bring something like that to our youth. And then, of course, on the big top tent, we'll still do some headliners, probably 3 Friday night headliners starting somewhere around 4 o'clock in the afternoon until 11. And then Saturday morning, we're going to have the dog show. We're going to work on that. That didn't go over as well in year 1. We learned some things from that. We'll make that better. That has the potential of really benefiting for the Love of Canines or other dog rescue organizations. So we learned some stuff. This was the first year that we did it. We'll improve upon that in 2022. We need to find about 500 suckerfish. That we've got to figure out a solution for that. That's something that's going to be on my heart and my mind as we move forward. Saturday afternoon, music in the big top and the gospel stage like normal. New Sunday hours. Here we go. We're expanding this thing into Sunday. Oh, by the way, and we're going to move the cornhole to Sunday as well. So we'll open up at 9 a.m. I talked to some of the members of the Ministerial Alliance. The vision there is that we would do a community-wide service at the gospel stage that morning for church. Get a local church that would move their congregation or be willing to move their congregation, invite them to come to downtown Nixa and have something there. Just early in the morning, just something unique. I've seen this work or I've researched about this in other town festivals, and it seems to go over very, very well. Again, highlighting our faith-based community, I think that's something that our community really enjoys, that we have that. And then starting around 11 o'clock, I want to do Bluegrass Sunday with a focus on a little bit of gospel, but I mean any kind of bluegrass. I love bluegrass music. It's one of my favorites. I mean, when you're at Bluegrass and Barbecue in Silverado City and you're walking around and you're smelling foods and you're hearing that bluegrass, it just screams festival, right? So kind of a Bluegrass Sunday afternoon, and then we're going to do the Cornhole Tournament. We needed more time for that. That was one of the things that we realized is that backing that right up to a live performance and having sound checks was just not a great fit, and we want a lot more time for that. So we want to do a Sunday afternoon, make that a little bit bigger. We may incorporate even a singles tournament into that, plus a doubles tournament, but work with our Alliance Association, our Alumni Association, about how we can make that even better for that afternoon, and that has a potential of really generating some good funds for that. There's ideas and models that I have from other chambers with lane sponsors and all kinds of things that we can do to really kind of make that kind of a big deal. And, of course, I think it still went really, really well, but that would be something that would still benefit the Seratoma group that's in there in the big top. And then we would close down at 6 p.m. And here's kind of why I want to do this. There's 2 reasons. One is that your volunteers, that 50-plus or 30-plus volunteers or whoever we had that night, guys, it's hard. It's hard breaking down an event at 10 o'clock at night. It's harder than I can ever imagine. And we probably would have learned that in 2019. However, we had to do an emergency breakdown that afternoon. So going through that process just made me realize, and not getting to sleep or getting our volunteers out of there to save time, it's just not good. And also, if we're going to have, let's just say we had the same amount of crowd. Yes, it's fun to see pictures of Main Street packed, and it's energy, and it's all that kind of stuff. However, it's a little taxing on those vendors, just a tad, because sometimes you get so many people walking up and down the street, maybe it's a little uncomfortable to walk all the way across the street or go to another booth, or the lines may be a little bit too long for the food vendors. So this would help disperse our crowd just a little bit. Instead of packing them into basically 3 to 10 on Friday and 9 a.m. to 10 p.m. on Saturday, we would expand it. And then that way, when we're breaking down at 6 o'clock on Sunday, we've got at least 3 or 4 or 5 hours to get everybody out of there, by 10 or 11 or something, and get everybody home at a decent hour on Sunday night. And it's going to be we're going to be breaking down in daylight, which is going to be more safer, less chance for an injury, people wanting to get cars in there. So there's a couple of different reasons, not just because I want to grow it. One, because I think it's more logistically better for our community that helps put this on. Again, parade on Thursday night. We had groups that wanted to be a part of the parade. Rich Callahan told me he would have had his van in the parade, but yet he had to have it committed to Sucker Day as our premier sponsor. So it allows some of those groups and events or organizations to do both and not be stuck to one another. So all in all, guys, I think that the new dates for next year, then, if we're looking at it, it's the weekend after Mother's Mother's Day. So that would be May 19th, 20th, 21st, and 22nd, 19th being Thursday, 22nd being Sunday. So that's where we're at right now. We've got a long way to go to logistically make sure that that's going to work for everybody. The other cool thing about this for the vendors is that they feel more comfortable. You know, we may even get higher quality vendors coming in because they don't want to come for a day and a half, but they'll come for 2.5 day festival. And the ones that travel to places like Apple Butter Making Days and those other big craft shows, they come from a long way, but they want that 2 or 3 and 4 day setup. And this like War Eagle down in Little Rock, or not Little Rock, Bentonville, I think. That's a big one that brings in vendors from all across the country. So it just draws more attention to our community. So kind of a cool thing. All right, that's what we did, guys. We had a big show. Any questions, thoughts, comments? What did you think?
I thought it was great.
Yeah?
There's so many people there all having such a wonderful time. The food lines were long, but you had so many varieties
Yeah.
of foods available. That was terrific.
Yeah.
I have a couple of comments, though. The Friday night youth concert, is that going to be a gospel concert or just a concert for the kids?
It's really a youth concert for the gospel.
Because they
Yeah,
used to
for
do a street-
gospel.
Years ago, you remember, they used to do a street dance
Uh-huh.
for Friday nights, and the kids had a ball with that.
I think there's an opportunity there. I was talking to a couple of the pastors about it, and you know, really, maybe looking at, again, that's their area. I give that to them. I kind of had this idea, and they're running with it. Do we bring in a special youth praise band? Not talking about, you know, what's the definition of an expert? Somebody 25 miles or further away, right? If we say, hey, James River Church is going to be there, and they're youth, well, that doesn't mean as much. Yeah. If we look at how do we get somebody that's a little bit more well-known for the youth and run this through the Ministerial Alliance, I just want to give them the space. And I want to, you know, with what the kids have to go through these days, and we don't have a lot for the big kids, I'm investigating on how we can get bigger rides. I just don't know how we're going to do it. I wasn't overly impressed with our ride package this year. I think there's some room for improvement there. They had machines breaking down constantly, so we're going to be reevaluating that. But if I have another reason for our youth to come to downtown, that keeps them in a safe environment. And maybe, who knows, and a little bit of outreach, a little bit of words of encouragement. It's not going to be an overly super religious service type deal, but it is going to be faith-based. For sure, absolutely. If it's a gospel stage, it's going to be faith-based.
The other thing I might suggest is, because you're needing more suckerfish, maybe you can come up with some prizes or something for the most.
Yeah, and that's the challenge, and we've evaluated that quite a bit, talking to some of our grabbers. It's not as easy. It's just not the same as it was back in the day.
I know.
It has to do a lot with the way that the Corps of Engineers does water control and water flow these days, and it changes the spawning patterns of the suckerfish. But are there some things that we can start doing in the fall when the gigging season opens that they're saving them for us? You know, it may not be grabbing suckers, but I don't think there's blues and there's yellows. Blues you can't freeze. Blues will go soft on you. You can't do it. Yellows, if packaged correctly and sealed correctly, are able to be frozen and saved until sucker day. A lot of the fish that we were serving this year were frozen fish from earlier in the year or even last year. Those are all within a year's time as, one, health and safe and good, and two, legal with the Missouri Department of Conservation.
Okay.
Yeah, but that's what we're trying. So we're going to maybe see, hey, if you're gigging this fall, you know, save some back. I mean, you think if some of these guys, they go out and they'll have 50 fish within a couple of weeks, you know, and if they can, you know, maybe even more than that. Well, can you save back 25 of them, you know, because they end up giving them friends and family. And the competition idea did come back to us. I found the original competition board that they used to put over here at the Wilcox station, and they would actually have who caught the biggest yellow, the biggest blue, and those kind of things. And there may be something. I think Matt, you've taken some parks people sucker fishing before. I think that's been a while back, hasn't it? Been a long time ago. Could we do something like that again? Could we come up with some sort of youth day? But I don't know. That's hard. You got to catch them spawning just right. And then we have spring rains. It's all changed. In the old days, the water flow for the Corps of Engineers was pretty consistent in Shadow Rock Park, and they could go down there and they could catch as many as they wanted to catch. Well, that's all changed now with everything that's happened in the world, and so it's a little bit more difficult. Any other thoughts, questions, or comments?
I was actually going to comment about the youth night on Friday night as well. There's a youth group called YAPOA that's been really making a movement in the youth organization, and they just purchased some land south of Ozark. And they're starting to build out there, but they do put on a great youth event.
Yeah.
If you wanted to make that something.
That's what I'm looking for, something that is maybe a little lights, maybe a little flare, maybe, I don't know, you know, something different, you know what I mean?
They do all kinds of fun stuff. I mean,
Yeah.
They have BMX ramps and one wheels.
Exactly. Now you're thinking big. Sean,
don't
give me that. Send me that information at some point. I'd love
do
that.
that.
That's what I'm thinking is and then what's it going to cost and how do we make that happen? I mean, I don't mind cost as much. If I know how much it is, I can build a plan around that. And I think our community will support it. Any other questions, Mayor?
Any other
Councilman
questions?
Peterson?
It was awesome.
Okay.
Had a great time.
All right,
Are
guys.
you
Well,
taking out,
next
so you're
up,
taking out the Saturday headliner and just having all headliners on Friday?
no, we'll have Friday and Saturday night too. Absolutely. Splinter's already probably booked one more year at least.
Okay.
Just at least one more year. I have had so many requests to bring him back one more time. But we're changing things up on Saturday, Friday night just a tad. And then there may be some open mic or karaoke Saturday afternoon in there. I don't know yet. Just kind of depends. We get done with our Sucker Day ceremonies or the dog show and Sucker Day ceremonies. We've got about a 2 or 3 hour gap there. It's not enough window as we learn to do a cornhole tournament, but you could do something else community-based in there, but kind of fun. I think karaoke or something. That does very well at Ozark Empire Fair, and so we'll probably do something like that. All in all, guys, I think we had one injury from a person who had a mild, I can't remember what it was, but I remember we had that one mild injury. I think we had a couple bee stings, but nothing major. Everything went very, very safe. I hadn't heard from the Nixa Police Department. I don't think anything happened after hours of Sucker Day that was to be worried about. So I think that went really, really well. Christian County Ambulance District was there. We had certain volunteers for first aid. Just, guys, it just worked out really, really great. So thank you so much for supporting this. Thank you for donating your team. When I say your team, that includes everybody from the city utility guys, our Nixa utility guys, Nixa Public Works, Nixa Streets Department, Nixa Police Department. It all come together. And I think that just the little things like adding additional power to the poles just really helped us out this year. So very good. All right, Mayor, unless there's anything else, I think I'm done.
Thank you, Mr. Russell.
Okay, very good.
Thank you.
Thank you.
All right, we'll move on to the ordinance section. First reading, Bill 2021-044.
First reading, amended Council Bill number 2021-044, an ordinance of the Council of the City of Nixa, amending Section 6-13 of the Nixa City Code to allow for the keeping of chickens.
Good evening. Evan, you might bring up that first illustration. The subcommittee that was created to study this issue has concluded their business and recommended a slightly revised version of the bill that was previously presented, I think a little over a month ago now, to the City Council, all having to do with the keeping of and husbandry of chickens in residential districts of the city. I've kind of crafted this illustration for those who are here that are visual learners like me to kind of try to bring a lot of the text into maybe something that's easier to digest. So what we've arrived at here is a situation in which in a residential district of the city you could keep 6 female chickens. Roosters are prohibited. You have to keep them in an enclosure being defined by this bill as something that has 4 walls and a roof made of sturdy material, sturdy enough to keep the chickens in and predators out. There's no dictated or specific size of the enclosure, so that will all be left up to the person that's keeping the chickens. They just have to have an enclosure that's located appropriately on the property, which is also illustrated here. The enclosure itself must meet all of the setback requirements that would be otherwise applicable to an accessory structure in that district or on that particular lot. In addition, it must be located at least 25 feet from any point of a neighboring business or other dwelling. So that's illustrated there with the neighboring house being 25 feet. That may cut into, where these enclosures may be located depending on, the arrangement of lots and how large lots are. This probably shows a backyard that's deeper than most of at least the newer lots here in Nixa, but still 6 feet on the side, 6 feet in the rear, 5 feet from the main structure, and 25 feet from any neighboring dwelling or business. Otherwise, animal health will be dealt with according to the city's existing regulations pertaining to animal health. And the staff is recommending approval of this bill, and the subcommittee obviously is also recommending approval.
Any questions? I had a question, but I'm trying to look it up, sorry. So on this very specific question, but on line 125, I like the line numbers too. Makes it nice. or that, in that area where it talks about the 25 feet, it doesn't, I guess it does say adjacent residential dwellings. Because in the part about, on the agricultural section, it specifically excludes the homeowner's home from that 25 feet, so you don't have to have it from within 25 feet. So is the adjacent residential mean the same thing? Is that it's not your
Correct.
house, but it's everybody else's house?
That's correct.
Okay. Any other questions? Thank you very much.
Thank you.
And we will open a public hearing. If anyone would like to speak to this item, they can do so at this time.
Come on, Ron.
They all came to the other meeting.
He's there too.
I'm Ron Sanders at 976 Glen Oaks Drive. Had the pleasure to partake in the process, which was pretty interesting. And I must say, I was pretty surprised whenever we moved this ordinance away from specifics and embraced the idea that best practices could be used instead of strict ordinance structures, and people's judgments could be trusted and then, handled afterwards if people are not doing what they're supposed to do according to best practices and according to, what they should be doing. This is the kind of ordinance that I would like to see more of, because it does put the responsibility back on the citizen instead of, spelling it out specifically. Like you must use 3/4 inch hold chicken wire, and you must use 3/8 inch staples to staple the chicken wire to the wood. We don't need to be doing that kind of stuff. And I was very pleasantly surprised to see that that wasn't happening. So kudos, and yeah, pass it. I think it'll be good. It'll be good for the community. It won't go crazy because there's a lot of people already that won't be able to have them because of HOAs and because of property sizes. But those that do have the property size and do have the freedom, according to their land ownership, they will get to do something. And you never know, man. People might share a couple eggs with me or something.
Thank you, Mr. Sanders. And we'll leave the public hearing open. And we will close the public hearing. Any other discussion? I think I'd want to thank the subcommittee for your work on this. Sounds like a very good job, and appreciate your extra time that you invested in getting this done right.
We tried.
All right, we will move on to the next one, 2021-061.
First reading, Council Bill Number 2021-061, an ordinance of the Council of the City of Nixa accepting the proposal of Algier, Martin and Associates Incorporated for water tower maintenance services and authorizing the city administrator to execute a contract for said services.
Good evening, Mayor and Council. The purpose of this bill is to establish a consultant services contract with Algier Martin to perform water tower maintenance and inspection. This is a program that we do on a yearly basis. We try to do at least 2 water tower inspections a year as part of our maintenance requirements through our operating permit with DNR. The purpose of this contract is to transition that existing program into an on-call consulting services that will not only allow the city staff to work directly with one engineering firm on a multi-year basis, as we do with other third-party consultants, but also provide an on-call service to where if there is an issue that establishes or that is identified throughout the year at any one of our 8 water towers or 10 wells, we would have the ability to directly contact an on-call consultant who could come out, assess the situation, and provide us with some direction on what we need to do to rectify the situation. This is a very similar program to we have with our other on-call third-party consultants, including our stormwater program, our electric consulting engineer, our city civil engineer. This is just another tool that the city will be able to utilize through a contract basis to establish a rapport with an existing engineering firm to provide services to the city of Nixa. We did do an RFP process. Through that RFP evaluation, Algar Martin did come to the top. They do serve as city utilities on-call consultant for water tower maintenance, so they have a good track record in the area. They came with a wealth of knowledge and a reputation that is very interested to the city of Nixa, and we want to move forward and contract with them to perform these services.
Any questions? So they won't necessarily do the actual maintenance, like the cleaning and repainting and those things. They'll just be
No,
the
sir.
engineers.
Yes.
for it.
They will establish an inspection report that identifies what maintenance needs to happen, and then from there, we will move forward to another consulting
We'll contract
firm.
that
Yeah,
separately.
we'll contract through the bid process to perform those maintenance requirements.
Have we used this company in the past, or is this a new company for us?
Not for this specific service. Now, Algar Martin is an established firm in southwest Missouri, so they have been used on other projects, but not in this capacity.
Any other questions? Thank you, Travis.
Thank you.
And we will open up the public hearing if you'd like to speak to this item. And we will close the public hearing. Any further discussion? All right, we'll move on. 2021-062, please.
First reading, Council Bill Number 2021-062, an ordinance of the Council of the City of Nixa accepting the bid of K&B Equipment LLC for the South Street Sewer Expansion Project, authorizing the city administrator to execute a contract for the project, and amending the 2021 annual budget to provide additional funding for the project.
All righty, this bill has a lot going on. We have a bid award, contract for services, also coupled with a budget amendment, all for the same project. This is one of our CIP projects, identified as a South Street Sewer Extension. The purpose of this sewer line is to parallel an existing sewer line that runs from Highway 14 south to Willow Chase Lane. There's an existing sewer line that was put in several years ago. Due to the growth of Nixa and the pressures that are associated with that, that line is nearing capacity, and we are in need of an additional line to provide relief so that we do not have overflows or backups or any surcharging of that line. This does not replace the existing line. It merely piggybacks the existing line and runs adjacent to it to provide that relief needed for the existing capacity, as well as open up additional capacity for future growth in the area. This project was identified as a 2021 CIP for $515,000. The third part of the bill establishes the need for a budget amendment of $75,000 to provide those services. We did receive 3 bids for the project, with a low of $583,000 up to a high of $748,000. The low bidder for the project was K&B Equipment at $583,730. The CIP established for this project was $515,000, so there is a need for a budget amendment in order to accomplish this work in the 2021 cycle. There's a multitude of reasons why. The primary reason why it exceeded our bids is that material costs this year have absolutely gone through the roof. This is a lot of pipe and a lot of manholes that need to be installed, and those are 2 products that are in short supply and high demand right now, so the prices have gone up. This was certainly not anticipated at the time that we put the budget together, but it is the environment we're working in. The need to move forward with this project this year has a lot to do primarily with the construction that's going to happen on East Highway 14. The sewer line goes adjacent to Diversified Plastics at Highway 14 south through their property. In that area, as part of the East Highway 14 expansion program, there's a detention basin that's going to be installed. It is imperative that we get our sewer line installed prior to MoDOT coming in spring of next year and installing that detention basin to eliminate our need to tear out a freshly poured detention basin and install our sewer line and rebuild that detention basin that MoDOT's going to be building. It would escalate the cost greatly. So we've been working with MoDOT and trying to establish a timeline when they'll be in so that we can make sure that we get our project done. They have awarded the project to begin January 1st. This contract will establish a delivery date of December 27th for the sewer line project. So we're going to stay ahead of MoDOT and be able to get our infrastructure in before they need to get their infrastructure in. And I apologize, like I said, that's a lot going on. I'd be happy to answer any questions you have.
How far does this go then, as far as, the length of the project?
Sure. Yeah, the length is from Highway 14 at Diversified Plastics south to Willow Chase, which there's an area called Tatum Lake, and Willow Chase Lane is off of South Main Street. That will be its terminus and tying into the existing infrastructure there.
Any other questions?
No.
Thank you, Travis.
All right, thank you.
And we will open up the public hearing. If you would like to speak to this item. And we will close the public hearing. Any further discussion? Move on to 2021-063.
First reading, Council Bill Number 2021-063, an ordinance of the Council of the City of Nixa rezoning the real property generally located at 203 East Mount Vernon Street from a neighborhood commercial district, NC, to a general commercial district, GC.
Good evening. Evan, you mind to bring up those other illustrations? Rich and Leah Callahan are the applicants on a rezone application that will change the classification of proposes to change the classification of approximately 3 acres located at 203 East Mount Vernon Street out of the neighborhood commercial zoning district and into the general commercial zoning district. The difference there being one of land use intensity for the most part. The general commercial zoning district allowing for slightly more intensive land uses compared to the neighborhood commercial zoning district that the property is currently located within. You may be more familiar with the site being described as the location of the old feed mill or old feed store. Currently, the site, sorry, I didn't grab that. The site is located there with the black hash marks. It's kind of an irregular shape. It's shown there in proximity to all of the municipal utilities, has immediate access to water, sanitary, sewer, and electric, all of sufficient capacity to serve general commercial land uses at this location. Doug, correct me, with the East Highway 14 expansion, will there be a new water main on the Highway 14 frontage, an 8-inch? So this shows the location of existing 6-inch water mains, but there will be a new 8-inch water main that's constructed as part of that highway expansion project in the very near future. We know that upon development, or in this case what would be redevelopment of the site, the original development predating much of the city's modern regulations, we know that one of the things that will come into play upon redevelopment will be the installation of some screening, which is required in the case of redevelopment where you have commercial adjoining residential. So this shows what would be the location, if this bill is approved, of what we refer to in the zoning regulations as a type A screen. That screen involving a portion that is 6 feet in height that is opaque, and then intermittent visual obstructions up to a height of 20 feet, those being trees. And so there's a variety of ways to accomplish that, some of those shown in the diagram there using hedges or a privacy fence or some evergreen trees. We also know that there will be some stormwater management that will need to take place upon redevelopment of this site. Of course, there not being any regulations at the time of the original development for detention or anything like that. We'll have to take care of that upon redevelopment. This illustration shows the proposed access to to State Route 14 at this location. It's a primary arterial, which can support general commercial traffic. Normally, we discourage direct access to primary arterials, though in this particular case, Route 14 kind of functions as a primary arterial on a regional basis, but on a localized basis, given that it's in the older part of Nixa, it also functions as both a secondary arterial and a collector, providing direct access to the parcels on both sides of the highway. It's just inevitable. There's no other way really to provide sufficient access to some of these properties. And so they will have the accesses as shown here. These are preliminary drawings, but I imagine it will look something of that effect. So staff is recommending the approval of this application. The Planning and Zoning Commission held a public hearing last week on this rezone, and they also voted unanimously to recommend its approval.
Any questions?
What's the zoning straight to the west?
with Canton Buffet?
General commercial.
Is it, okay.
So the dark red is general commercial and the pink is residential commercial, or
That's-
residential commercial.
Neighborhood
Neighborhood.
commercial. That's
Okay.
correct.
I just,
And it's the whole parcel that's being rezoned, not, there's lots of lines on there. So
Yeah.
I was concerned about the red line. It makes it look like a square.
Right. Yeah, everything inside that black dashed line, if you could see it, make that bolder in the future.
So everything but like the two houses on the corner there.
Correct. Yeah, not the two houses on the corner. Right. The city's land use plan, the one adopted in 2003, it recommends neighborhood commercial for this particular site, but staff's opinion is that given its location and given the depth of general commercial surrounding that, it is in harmony with the land use that is surrounding it, the pattern of development and growth within the community at large. And so, generally speaking, we still consider it to be conforming to the city's land use plan.
Any other questions? Just a future task, we probably also need to rezone our new parking lot off of Main Street there, which is still listed as R2 residential there, or R1 residential, maybe R2. The dark yellow square at the bottom left.
That's true. I know someone who can help with that.
That'll work out. Any other questions? Thank you.
Thank you.
And we'll open up the public hearing. If anyone would like to speak to this item. And we will close the public hearing. Any further discussion? Nope. All right, move on to the next one, 2021-064.
First reading Council Bill Number 2021-064, an ordinance of the Council of the City of Nixa amending Section 20-276 of the Nixa City Code to establish when drivers are required to yield the right-of-way at certain intersections and when making left turns.
Good evening, Mayor, members of council. While reviewing the city's traffic regulations, staff has found that the city's current code provisions do not clearly establish when drivers are required to yield the right-of-way at certain intersections or when completing left turns. Council Bill 2021-064 would add language to Section 20-267 of the Nixa City Code, which regulates turning movements currently, that would clarify that drivers approaching an intersection must yield to other approaching vehicles that have entered the intersection. When two vehicles enter an intersection at about the same time, the driver of the vehicle on the left side shall yield the right-of-way to the driver on the right side. Third, when drivers are intending to turn left at an intersection, they must yield to oncoming traffic. And finally, when drivers are intending to turn left into an alley, private road, or driveway, they must yield to oncoming traffic. And just a clarifying piece here, a lot of this is designed to apply in instances where there's not pre-established traffic control. There are regulations in the code that address situations when there's a sign or a light or some form of traffic control there. This is more to capture instances where that isn't present. This language that's being recommended to be added to the code is based on language found in current state law. That's Section 304-351 RSMO, which regulates similar activities on the state level. With that, staff recommends approval of the bill, and I'm available for any questions that the council may have.
Any questions? No. Thank you, Mr. Woodman.
Thank you.
And we'll open up the public hearing if you'd like to speak to this item. And we will close the public hearing. Any further discussion? We will move on to the next one, 2021-065.
First reading Council Bill Number 2021-065, an ordinance of the Council of the City of Nixa amending the 2021 annual budget to appropriate additional funding for a certain cost apportionment agreement between the city and the Missouri Highway and Transportation Commission.
Second time tonight I've had to ask for a budget amendment. During the design and conceptual phase of the East Highway 14 project, the city of Nixa entered into a cost share agreement with MoDOT to add 3 items to the construction of that project. One was sidewalk infrastructure along the length of the highway. The second was additional improvements to the Rice Street corridor MoDOT is making intersection improvements at Rice and 14. However, there's about a 300-foot stretch that also needed improvements and that were on the city side of the project. So we added those to their construction project, and we also added a change to the light poles at the intersection of Main and 14. That cost appropriation agreement that was entered into between the city and MoDOT was based on the engineer's estimate of the project. And that estimate was $115,446, of which a CIP was established for this year. On May 21st, MoDOT did open up bids for that project, which again is to begin in January 1st. D&E Plumbing was the low bidder. However, one portion of those three items that the city participated in, the bid came in higher than what the engineer's estimate was, and that was that portion of Rice Street. So in conformance with that agreement that the city entered into, it required an additional appropriation of $5,854.10 to meet our obligation that in that agreement that we entered into with MoDOT. So the budget amendment tonight, because we did establish this as a CIP, does necessitate that we move monies out of reserves into that CIP line item to provide those monies to MoDOT towards that project.
Any questions? At this point, can we go back and change anything? If we wanted to take out the pretty streetlights? And
Good question. I do not have an answer because we've already entered into a contract with MoDOT and they've already bid it out. I don't know. I would have to ask if that would nullify all the bids and they would have to go back to square one, or just how that would work. Nick, do you?
I mean,
I
it's
don't know that
something
we
we
wanna
can
do that at this point.
negotiate, but I mean, well, we'd have to check with them. It's something we can get back to council on, though.
I can certainly look into it. I can call MoDOT and ask, but no, I did not ask that question. I'm not sure what would happen if we remove the streetlights, which was about $11,000 and some change, and slid that over to this. But I can certainly find out.
Yep, that'd be great.
Okay?
We understand the cost of construction are going up, but if it's not something that we necessarily need, we can definitely look at that.
Perfect. I will ask.
Any other questions? Thank you, Travis.
All right, thank you.
And we will open up a public hearing on this item. And we will close the public hearing. Any further discussion? Nope. All right, move on to 2021-066.
First reading, Council Bill Number 2021-066, an ordinance of the Council of the City of Nixa authorizing the city administrator to execute a certain water connection agreement.
Mayor and Council, good evening. In 1994, easements were granted for the city's, or some easements were granted for the city's water main installation along North Nicholas Road, with compensation apparently in the form of water service connections on at least two of the properties. One of the service connections has been installed. It's been there for a number of years. The other has remained unused to date. Since we do not have any recorded easements, and because the need for additional water service connection in conjunction with the Nicholas Heights development that's going on out there today, the two private parties, both with rights to service taps, one wishes to assign their tap to the other property to allow for that growth to take place. This agreement would allow for that transfer to take place. Staff has reviewed this. We've worked with Mr. Woodman through the agreement. The relocation of the service has no ill effect whatsoever on the system, and so therefore staff does support the agreement. Of course, it's our intent to bring it back to you for final action at your next meeting, but we're here for any questions that you may have.
Questions? It sounds so simple after the 2 or 3 years that we've worked on it.
After a while, we worked on it. Yeah, yeah, it does.
Any questions? Oh. Thank you, Doug.
Yeah.
And we will open up the public hearing if anyone would like to speak to this item. And we will close the public hearing. Any further discussion? Thank Thank you all very much. We'll move on to our second reading, 2021-057.
Second reading, Council Bill Number 2021-057, an ordinance of the Council of the City of Nixa accepting the proposal of KB Equipment LLC for the boring portion of the Northeast Substation Feeder Number 3 project, authorizing the city administrator to execute a contract for said project and amending the 2021 annual budget to provide additional funding for said contract.
As Travis mentioned, there's a number of budget amendments going on. I'm sorry to say. This council bill, as Elizabeth said, awards the boring portion only of the Northeast Feeder 3 CIP project to K&B Equipment. It authorizes the city administrator to execute the contract and also authorizes that budget amendment that we spoke of. As we discussed at your last meeting, K&B Equipment provided the lowest bid at $105,300. I believe the highest was in the neighborhood of $250-some thousand and some change. Material and construction costs, as you've heard this evening already, continue to rise. Unfortunately, it's affected the amount staff estimated about at least a year ago in working on the budget development for the project. The bill authorization would be for an additional $25,000, which would come from unrestricted reserves in the electric department, and those are available. If approved, the contractor would start the first part of July or thereabouts and have this completed in mid to late August. As you can see, we've got a couple of projects that they've lined up with low bids on, and this one fits right in between the water line they're working on now and the sewer project that Travis explained to you earlier. This one would kind of fit right in the middle of that. So council does have a recommendation for passage of this bill.
Any questions? Thank you, Mr. Cole. And we will open up a public hearing if anyone would like to speak to this item. And we will close the public hearing. Any further discussion? Motion to approve?
I'll make the motion.
Roll call, please.
Yes.
Jared Giddens,
Yes.
Aaron Peterson,
Yes.
Darlene Graham,
Yes.
Amy Hookstrat,
Yes.
Sean Lucas.
Yes.
And whenever you're ready.
Second reading, Council Bill Number 2021-058, an ordinance of the Council of the City of Nixa authorizing the mayor to execute a memorandum of understanding with the United States Marshal Service to allow the city to participate in a fugitive task force.
Mayor, Council, we were approached by the U.S. Marshal Service and asked to participate in some degree in their task force that they're forming. And through that request, we did some research into what they were asking for from us, and what they're asking for is part-time remote work. So we would dedicate a portion of some overtime for an officer to help them with warrant roundup and sex offender registry compliance. We are looking at no more than about 8 hours a week. That's what they would be getting from us. What we would be getting from them in return would be the opportunity for training, equipment, and some reimbursement of those overtime costs. Also, for our part, we have the reach and power of the Marshal Service if we ever to have to track a fugitive or make an arrest on a dangerous felon. We have those resources available to us. And so we believe this will be a very good partnership. I think it also goes to help us achieve some of the goals of working with other outside agencies to be more effective and save some money in the process as well. Any questions?
Any questions? No? Thank you, Chief. And we will open up the public hearing. And close the public hearing. Any further discussion? Motion to approve?
So made. Second.
Roll call, please.
Jared Giddens,
Yes.
Aaron Peterson,
Yes.
Darlene Graham,
Yes.
Amy Hookstrat,
Yes.
Sean Lucas,
Yes.
Justin Orff.
Yes.
Second reading, Council Bill Number 2021-059, an ordinance of the Council of the City of Nixa waiving certain city fees related to the construction of a certain performing arts center by Nixa Public Schools and amending the 2021 annual budget to cover said waiver.
A certain performing arts center.
I'm
That's
sorry?
funny. A certain performing arts
A
center.
certain performing
A certain
arts center.
performing arts
There
center.
you go.
There may be others. This is a very specific one, yes.
Well, I think my paraphrasing of Mr. Lyles's memo to you will be a little more specific in that, as he discussed during the last meeting, the Nixa School District is in the process of constructing a performing arts center. Once the project completes, the school district plans to bring outside performers and events to the PAC, which is the acronym, as well as hold student performances. These performances have the potential to bring in several people from outside our community. I would say probably more than several. Presumably, some of these individuals will spend money in our town, they'll eat at our restaurants and those types of things to help the local economy. So they're going to provide a positive economic impact to our community. The negative impacts of COVID recently, along with what you've already heard 10 times tonight, the rise in construction costs have put additional financial burdens on the school district. Taking all this into consideration, the school district has asked if there would be any opportunities to cut costs through the city. Staff is recommending council consider waiving the third-party plan review reimbursement cost for this project. As Mr. Lyles explained, we use a third-party reviewer on large commercial projects like this, and so those costs are typically passed through to the developer or the owner of that project, and what the school is asking for us to do is to waive those costs for that third-party reviewer. Since the plan review reimbursements are calculated into the planning and development budget, waiving the reimbursements of these costs would also require a budget amendment. Due to the unforeseen effects of COVID, as mentioned, the potential for rising building costs and the potential for positive economic impact, staff is recommending council consider waiving the current reimbursement cost and any future review cost associated with the PAC project up to a total of $10,000. What that means is we'll have that initial review, and if there are some follow-ups based on some questions, they have to make some changes, and then we go back to review those to make sure the cost could go up a little bit. So staff is also recommending that the budget amendment for $10,000 for the development department be approved as well.
Any questions? Thank you, Doug.
Thank you.
And we will open up the public hearing if anyone would like to speak to this item. And we will close the public hearing. Any further discussion?
Nope.
Motion to approve.
So made.
Second.
Roll call, please.
Aaron Peterson,
Yes.
Darlene Graham,
Yes.
Amy Hookstrat,
Yes.
Sean Lucas.
Yes.
Justin Orff,
Yes.
Jared Giddens.
Yes.
One more.
Second reading, Council Bill Number 2021-0510, an ordinance of the Council of the City of Nixa authorizing the city administrator to execute an addendum with Allied Waste Services LLC to modify provisions of the agreement for waste collection, transport, and disposal services.
Mayor, council, Mr. Lyles spoke on this item, and council held the first reading on this item at the May 24th council meeting. This bill, if approved, would amend the terms of the city's contract with Allied Waste Services, who do business as Republic Services, for citywide waste collection. The intent of the modification is to remove the requirement that Republic Services provide an annual citywide cleanup after the citywide garage sale and replace this requirement with the weekly pickup of a single large item as part of residents' regular pickup schedule. However, the bill presented does not currently capture this intent. The addendum document attached as Council Bill Exhibit A does not delete the annual citywide cleanup language. This language is found at paragraph 2 of the addendum. To correct this oversight, staff is requesting that council consider an amendment to the bill to replace Council Bill Exhibit A with an amended exhibit showing paragraph 2 as deleted. This requested change is evidenced in Amendment Number 1, which was provided to City Council via the meeting packet. A memo was provided on this proposed amendment as well. Staff recommends approval of Amendment Number 1, and once amended, Council Bill 2021-051. I am available for any questions that council may have on the amendment or the underlying council bill.
Any questions? Do you want to approve, do you want to do the amendment before the public hearing? Is that how that process-
It's council's preference. We can take public hearing on the amendment and the bill, or you can amend it and then take public hearing. It's,
Okay. We'll do that. I'm going to make a motion to accept the amended version.
I'll make the motion.
Second.
All in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? Okay. Thank you very much.
thank you.
Any other questions? All right, we'll open up the public hearing on the amended ordinance. And close the public hearing. Any further discussion? Motion to approve the amended ordinance.
So made.
Second?
Roll call, please.
Yes.
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 Yes. Yes.
And we'll move on to the resolution section.
Resolution 2021-061, a resolution of the Council of the City of Nixa amending the city's adopted purchasing policy and procedures to revise provisions related to purchasing orders.
Typically, you would see Ms. Evans here tonight. However, she wasn't able to make it, so I'm going to try to fill in as best I can. Section 3, subsection 5 of the city's purchasing policy establishes procedures for the requirement of purchase orders. Typically, we change these periodically we come to you and change these as times change and needs change. Currently, purchase orders are required for the procurement of items costing more than $1,000. When it says items, that could be a single item or multiple items on a single purchase order. It is staff's opinion that this threshold has become too low relative to departmental expenditure budgets. Staff is proposing an amendment to the purchasing policy to raise this threshold to $2,500. Additionally, staff is recommending a change in the threshold for purchasing authorizations by department heads to $4,000, which is up from $2,500. Approval for single purchases over $10,000, of course, would still be required by department directors, and $20,000 for those would be by the city administrator. Those two remain unchanged. There's a number of red highlights within the purchasing procedures because this is addressed a number of times, but in a nutshell, that's basically what this is. It would raise the PO threshold to $2,500 from $1,000, and it would raise the authorization for department heads to authorize purchases up to $4,000 before it moves on to the department director or the city administrator.
Any questions?
What was the figure that was changed on the home rule charter, and did that pertain just to projects? Because I remember that was one of the deals. It's been a minute since I've looked at that.
I'll be honest with you, I
Did
didn't
we-
check the home rule charter, Mr. Giddens, so, Nick,
Did we
do
have
you
an
know?
amendment on that this last election cycle? I don't recall that.
No, I think it's just
No.
set in the original one. There is,
Because I thought, and it's been a minute since I've looked at that, but,
I don't think it gets
remember-
into purchase orders. I think it gets more into that $20,000 thing before we come back to city council,
Okay,
and it's outside the budget.
so that's more towards projects.
I think
and
it's more for
this is more
larger,
towards
these
new
are more
cartridges and-
day-to-day operations,
Yeah.
I believe. I'm
Okay.
sorry, I don't have that in
I
front
was
of
just
me.
wanting to make sure there wasn't any crossover there on,
I'll take a look real quick.
why do I feel like we did that? We changed that.
I didn't think,
On-
I didn't believe the charter mentioned this. I thought it just had a statement about that purchases have to be made pursuant to something adopted by the council.
Or did we talk about changing that, and then we did it by resolution? I think it was, okay. Sorry, I've slept since then. Maybe.
Provided you'd like for us to bring
Yeah,
this
I just-
back later,
I
we'd be
mean,
happy to look into that
I'm not
and bring
making
it
that
back.
up, am I? We discussed it pretty in-depth but then I ended up leaving because I had to resign from that to come to council. And I didn't remember what the end result was. I just want to make sure there wasn't
I
any
don't
crossover
remember
there.
anything when, in the latest round of adoption of
Okay.
some changes. I don't remember that. It would have had to have been in the
So
original.
I think it was to raise the amount, so the city administrator didn't have to come back every time there was something under.
I don't remember
10,000.
that change, but
I'd have to get my big red folder out. It's got my notes. I don't have it. I just want to make sure there wasn't something that was going to cross over.
well, it's a good point. We don't like to have conflicting.
To break our own home rule charter, right?
Yeah.
Yeah.
See anything on
I'm not
that
seeing
here,
it
but-
either.
Had something to do with the city administrator entering, it might have just been for entering into contracts.
Now, I do remember discussion about that.
Okay. I didn't make it up.
But it wasn't cost. It had to do with the entering of contracts once council had approved the budget, and it was within
Maybe
the budget.
Elizabeth question, did
And
we
I don't know
update
that
the
even got
online
added
home
in,
rule
but
charter
it was
with
discussed.
The changes from the last election? Did we update the home rule charter that's online with the changes from the last election? Okay.
It should be.
I can't remember.
That
exactly
might
they
be
were.
what
Yeah,
you're thinking
I
about.
don't believe we have anything in the charter
Okay.
that addresses purchasing.
Yeah.
I'll look, I still
There's a
have my
code
folder,
provision.
so I'll look at it tonight because it's going to drive me insane.
There's a code provision, but it doesn't establish a dollar amount.
Yeah.
I'm not aware of a dollar amount, but I'll do some checking and I can get back
Okay.
to the council on that.
It looks like Proposition 3 was about council action on budget. Is that what you're referring to?
I don't know. What does it say?
If it was larger. I'm trying to read here. No, that has to do with the annual budget. No,
That wasn't it then?
that's not it.
Yeah, because this specifically listed the city administrator. So I don't think it does, but we might as well look into it just to make sure.
Any other questions for me?
So my report on this, you want to save it till the next meeting?
I say move forward, because I'm pretty sure it had to do with entering into contracts and had nothing to do with the day-to-day operations.
I do remember that, discussing that.
Okay,
During the review committee
yes.
from the original charter.
Yeah.
Okay. Yeah, I've not, committed it all to memory, but I'm not aware of any.
I think I just remembered what happened. I think we didn't want to set a dollar amount because, prices on
Yeah.
everything change. And so I think we had discussed moving it more towards a resolution instead of changing it on the charter.
Makes sense.
So I just wasted 4 minutes.
We all
Thank you
learn
for entertaining me.
Appreciate you being sure.
Well, share these things. Any other questions? Thank you, Doug. And we'll open up the public hearing if anyone would like to speak to this item. And close the public hearing. A motion to approve.
So made.
Second.
All in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? Thank you very much. And 2021-062.
Resolution 2021-062, a resolution of the Council of the City of Nixa granting a permit to the Nixa Area Chamber of Commerce to authorize the display of fireworks.
Evening. Nixa Chamber of Commerce has submitted a special event application to city staff for review for the Sky High Fireworks Celebration set for June 26, 2021. That special event permit is currently still under review by city staff, but part of that special event involves a public display of fireworks, which requires a specific council action to authorize a permit specific to the fireworks. So just for the sake of clarity, this resolution does not permit the overall special event. Staff's still working through that with the Nixa Chamber of Commerce, but it does authorize the public display of fireworks. This illustration here shows the general location of the fireworks display in relation to Eagle Stadium at Nixa High School, kind of sandwiched right there in between Gregg Road and Nicholas Road, south of Route 14. Staff has reviewed the application, and council's findings in this matter are basically that the Nixa Chamber of Commerce is working with somebody competent and responsible for the public display, which staff believes there's evidence in their application that they are. The company that they're using is reputable and has done similar work for other organizations in our area, and that the location is generally safe. And this is a location where there have been fireworks displays in the past associated with Nixa High School football, et cetera, and so staff did not find anything alarming there as well. But ultimately, these are findings for the council to make. Staff recommends approval.
Any questions?
What's the yellow lines that you have outlined
Sean,
up there?
that's what I want to know.
Those are the city limits.
Okay.
Yeah.
Inside city limits, outside city limits?
The
Depends on where
location
the
of
box
this-
is, right?
Because it looks like
kinda
part of
weird
my
that it
street is
is,
not in the
so.
city limits, so I'm pretty
The,
sure it is.
yeah, we've got a couple islands in there, so I get that that's confusing. But the location where the display will take place is inside the city limits.
Yeah, maybe, is the other side of your street in the city limits?
The house at the very end of my street across from me is not in the city limits.
Yeah, I
but
think
our
that's what
whole
that's what
street
that's
is. That's
showing.
why I can see that, but I'm seeing it cut over at the back going, thought they were in. I have a question. Can I charge people to come and sit on my back deck to watch these?
Sure. Yes, you may.
Apply
get
for
a
a
permit
Nixa
for
business
that?
license.
Yeah, apply for an
Where are
business
they
license.
anticipating people to come to watch the fireworks? Are they, are we gonna have access to Eagle Stadium?
Oh,
The
the whole,
stadium, yeah.
there's a whole event there.
Okay, I didn't know.
Google
Which,
it.
when we open the public hearing, Mr. Russell will come and tell us about the entire event in 5 minutes, and then
You can
There we
come
go.
sit in Matthew's parking lot, Sean. You can see the whole thing
my back deck.
Yeah.
on the swings.
Field there.
Or go to his house too. I can see him.
Any other questions? Thank you very much.
Thank you.
That's outside the city limits.
And we'll open up the public hearing. If anyone,
It's not my neighborhood, it's in the city limits, but that's
including Mr. Russell,
And we are, I'm a little bit behind, as you guys know, I had to go.
say your name and.
Chris Russell, Nixa, Missouri, Nixa Chamber of Commerce, President, CEO, 200 West Walnut, 106 West Sherman Way, Suite 6, Nixa, Missouri. Okay,
Thank you, Mr.
so
Russell.
I do want to apologize. I had a little bit of setback personally on after Sucker Day, so that's caused a little bit of delay getting some of this stuff finalized. However, this thing's coming together very nicely for Nixa. This is not a festival. It's a celebration. It's a 6 to 10 event. We have about 20-plus businesses who are getting involved in this as well. We are actually also opening up the area that is just to the south of the Nixa High School, which is the practice field for additional, the families who want to picnic and have a fun time. A couple of small setbacks. You want to talk about insurance. We have a $5 million policy on this alone as required by the school district for us to do this. And then we're not able to do the fireworks because of their current insurance policies, which I hope we can get that rectified in the future. We're not able to use the stadium itself as far as the field for any kind of live entertainment. We're just basically what we're going to do is we're going to have some live entertainment that's out on the concourse, which would be kind of cool. We have a band lined up for that. We have a concession stand being run by, I believe, the JROTC to help benefit that group. We have the Nixa Crimson Corps, who is charging a $5 recommended donation to park. If somebody comes in and they don't have any money or they have a credit card or something like that, then that's fine. But that's a donation to the Nixa Crimson Corps to help out the band boosters. This event is master planned once again by the Nixa Police Department, Fire Department. We have an idea how we're going to handle this, so it should be good and safe. Around 9 o'clock, we'll encourage everybody to go into the the stadium if they're not already in there hanging out. We're going to actually switch things over from the live music to probably a canned music to begin to prepare for the show. Our own Councilman Hook Street. I'm never going to get this right. I am killed this name like 50,000 times.
Hook strap.
Hook strap. I know. Strat. Hook strap. I'm gonna say it 100 times, and I respect you so much, and I got to get it right. She is going to be singing our national anthem this year, so that's a solo act that we were going to do from the press box because the reverb on the field is unbelievable using the sound system. You're going to want to be upstairs with me. I also have a special press box for city council members who wish to participate and come and watch. Room for about 4 or 5 of you. They're not that big if you've ever been up in those, and we'll have a catered meal for you guys to participate as well as being a part of making this happen for us. So you guys can fight over who gets to come up there and hang out with us, okay? But that's kind of what's happening, guys. And then, of course, this show is about 10 or 15 minutes. We'll get you guys out and get you back home, okay? But it should be and here's the other thing. I am absolutely encouraging, this is not about Nixa Chamber. This isn't about the Nixa businesses. This is about every one of those people around there who are going to have the parties, who are going to have the backyard barbecues, who are going to do those kind of things. One thing that you need to be prepared for, and there's nothing I can do about it, you're probably going to have other people shoot fireworks that night. It's just something that's probably going to happen. I can't control that. I've had people ask me about it. I tell them, I say the ordinances are specific to this event, that you can only shoot on the 4th of July, but that is something that I have a feeling that this could cause some complaints coming in, because people are going to be celebrating, they're going to see our fireworks shoot, and then they're going to shoot their own. It's going to happen. So, Chief Campbell, I apologize in advance, but it's coming. Other than that, guys, this should be a good community festival. Thank you. Any questions? Okay, cool. Yes, Darlene, go.
Where exactly around the field are they going to shoot those off?
They're actually going to be right smack dab in the middle of the field. As a matter of fact, when I initially took this to the Nixa Fire Protection District and asked about their safety, one of the things they indicated was, as Chief Wallace explained to me, basically, if this is the height of a 5 or 6 inch shell from the ground, right? Mm-hmm. What's the distance if it were to go vertically or horizontally over? We are like 2 or 3, because of that location, we're 2 or 3 times the safety distance for 4 and 5 shells. You can't get 6 inch shells right now because of the tariff rules out of China. So that's all we need to get up over the top of the trees. Now, about where Garrett has those launching, somewhere right in that middle section right there is where they're going to be from. Okay. And even if something were to fall over and shoot towards the crowd, it's going to hit a grove of trees before it hits the stadium, which is another part of my awesome conversations I've gotten to have over the last few weeks. So, but we are working. It was a $5,500 policy for us to spend for the Nixa Chamber, and I didn't have it in the budget. So, but we had already promised the city of Nixa we were going to do this, and I know that you guys had allocated, I think, $10,000 to this, so we will probably be sending an invoice over pretty soon to help us with the cover of this. This is not for the chamber. This is for Nixa. This is out of the Strategic Plan 101. I just happen to know how to make it happen, and trust me, I wouldn't have wished the conversations. I lost a sponsor today, a $1,500 sponsor, because we couldn't have the skydiver. So I had to refund them back. So I need all the help we can get to make this happen, guys. Okay?
One more question, because my mind didn't compute. The football field or the field on the other side?
No, okay, so basically, if I had a, does that have a pointer on it?
Is it the field they just purchased?
It is in the field they just purchased.
Okay, that's what I wanted to make sure of. All right.
Yes, it's in the new field.
Yeah.
So basically, this is what we annexed into the city about a little over a year ago. That's where I got the vision for it. Matt and I actually approached that when I was on city council. Matt and I worked with the Gregg family trying to get permission to do a city show back then, and they just wouldn't give us access. So once it was purchased by the Nixa Public Schools, it made it a little bit more easier to get happen. Parking, and then this will be the area here that will basically be open for people to do your picnic style stuff. I mean, throw the football, bring the frisbee, bring a blanket, those kind of fun things. We're going to have signs up that says no alcohol, but we're not going to stop people from wanting to bring in a cooler and have a picnic, dinner with their family, guys. This is Celebration 101 right here. And then the parking is going to be a little tougher, but we'll be utilizing the high school parking lot. The Performing Arts Center construction will inhibit it just a tad, and then Matthews Elementary will be used for some parking over here as well. We're working on bringing all parking down into here to control it into here, but of course at the end of the night, exits will be everywhere. We have improved roads here and improved roads here, and then I know that Lieutenant Fleetwood is working with our resource officers at the Christian County Sheriff's Department who are in charge of the high school to come up with a safety plan, but we'll have some additional personnel and support on staff that night. One other concern that we have, but we are addressing it, is some of these cul-de-sacs through here are going to have no event parking signs up just to try to discourage people from pulling down in there and blocking the residents from getting out. It's an attempt, guys. It's an attempt to help our Nixa PD control traffic. So we already have those made. We left over. That's why we now have Nixa Chamber event parking signs and not Sucker Day versus Sky High. We can more universal. We had a bunch of those made. We'll be getting those out sometime on that Saturday.
Okay, thank you.
We're trying, guys. Just trying to bring a good old-fashioned fireworks show back to Nixa. And it's been something. But you know what? Come the 26th, we're letting them off. We're letting shoot them off. So, anything else? Okay, cool.
Thank you, Mr. Russell. And we will leave open the public hearing if anyone else would like to speak to this item. And we will close the public hearing. Any further discussion? Motion to approve?
So made.
Second.
All in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? Nobody's opposed to fireworks. All right. And we'll move on one more.
Resolution 2021-063, a resolution of the Council of the City of Nixa authorizing the issuance of a special event permit for the Christian County Cornhole Tourney.
If on June 26th, that same day as Sky High, while you're waiting for your spot in Miss Graham's driveway to open up, you want something else to do, the Nixa and Ozark Rotary Clubs will be hosting an event in Macaulay Park. This is another special event application that staff currently has under review, and they are proposing to sell and consume alcohol as a part of this event, and because it's on public property, that has to be authorized specifically by the City Council. This plan illustrates how they intend to conform to all the city's regulations pertaining to the use and consumption of alcohol on public property, including having a boundary to keep people contained within this particular area. Again, this takes place at Macaulay Park on June 26th. Staff has reviewed the application and recommends approval of the resolution. Once this resolution is approved, we will forward this on to the applicant, who will then utilize it to get the license that's required by state liquor control in order to move forward.
Is this in conjunction with the lighted up?
No,
Fireworks?
it happens to be the same day.
So it's a totally different,
Yeah, one's at Macaulay Park and one's at the high school. so.
Okay.
Are they going, do you know if they're going to have restrooms within the bounded perimeter?
I don't know. Matt, do you happen to know?
No, okay, so they're just gonna use the park restrooms, is there? Yeah, okay.
Where's the pool in relation to where that's going to be? On that way.
So the single controlled access is entering into the pavilion.
That's the pavilion.
Okay.
Any other question? Any questions? Thank you very much. We will open up the public hearing. If anyone would like to speak to this item.
I'd like to know what you think about this, Matt, because it's going to be on park stuff.
Public hearing, so.
I want to know what he
Okay.
thinks about it.
We'll close the public hearing.
Oh, sorry.
Now you can ask your question.
Now, I want to know what you think about it. Sorry.
I mean, I'm careful here. I'm a part of the Rotary Club, and so I've tried to kind of distance myself from this portion of that so that I wasn't trying to relay on two different sides here. I mean, I think their plan to control access is a good plan. I don't think that they'll run into any problems that way. I personally don't have any problems with that, but just knowing what extents they're going to make sure that they control the event and keep it contained. I don't think it's going to turn into a rowdy festival or tournament in that sense. They're really just wanting to try to do something as a fundraiser prior to sending everybody to Chris's fireworks show. Right? No, we're not doing that.
Police department.
Don't let Chris comment anymore. But, you know, it'll be something that's done between 5:30 and 6 o'clock, well in advance of the fireworks show. We'll be able to remind everybody and try to help everybody find their way over to that as well.
Okay. I was just concerned about the proximity to the pool and kids and stuff. That was my only concern.
You know, that is a possibility. The playground will be more of the issue if you want to play that side of things. The pool and everything is far enough away that it doesn't see a whole lot of traffic in relation to this area of the park.
Okay.
The playground would be a little bit closer.
Okay.
Are they required to provide their own security?
Correct.
Sertoma does?
They're doing that within club members and things like that. Part of Nix's club is very small. Ozark Club is very large.
Yeah.
And so they've got a lot of great volunteers that'll be helping with that.
Any other discussion or questions? Matt? Okay. Motion to approve?
So made.
Second.
All in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Thank you all very much. Anything else from staff?
Mayor, I just wanted to mention, I've already had a discussion with Mr. Lucas, but we are starting mosquito spraying tonight. Unfortunately, delays in materials have pushed us off until here we are in the middle of June, and we're finally getting started, but we'll be starting this evening to do that. Mr. Lyles asked me to just send out a reminder for the work session. Reservations have been made. If you have any questions, don't hesitate to contact Cindy later in the week or Mr. Lyles next week. So that's all I have.
Chief, must have something. He walked all the way up here.
So at the last council meeting, you, forgive me, but I believe it was Councilman Orff had asked a question about the intersection of Village Center and Missouri 14 and the uptick in crashes there. And I asked Lieutenant Whitehill to pull some data for us. And interestingly enough, what we found was that it's the highest crash intersection that we have in the city in the last year. So we looked at from June 2020 to our current time right now. And I think we got a total of 19 crashes, with 10 of those injuring 12 different people. So it is a concern. Obviously, that is a MoDOT controlled roadway, and we don't have a lot of say on how it's configured, but it might be in our interest to let MoDOT know that we've seen a pattern there, and it is a high crash area. They happen to look at these same data sets as well, and so I know they are at least evaluating those things. But I wanted to get that information back to the council because they had specifically asked us about what those crashes looked like and how often we're seeing crashes there.
How many did you say were injured?
There was 10 crashes that injured 12 different people. So
19
and
total
19
accidents.
crashes
19
total.
total accidents.
Yeah.
Okay. 10 injury
With
accidents.
10 of those being injury accidents and 12
over
people being
50%.
injured total.
So what's your process going forward? Do you kind of ask them if they want to evaluate that more, or are they evaluating it since you brought it to their attention as well?
So I think it's an opportunity for us to reach out to MoDOT and point that out. We've had places like this around the city in the past, notably Rosedale and US 160 was a problematic area, and we actually saw some serious injuries and some fatalities there. And we just kept working with them, and a lot of response what we got was, it was, money was the issue with the improvements. But, in the last couple of years, they'd made some major investments in that area, changed a lot of the slope and moved the guardrail back, and it's significantly better. And so I don't know that we've had a serious crash there in quite some time. But
Good.
It's just a matter of making sure that they're aware and that they're prioritizing these kinds of things. So this one's a little more difficult because you're talking about egress for businesses. And so I would tell you that probably Fountain Plaza, McDonald's, and Walgreens may not be super excited about limiting turning out of that area for lefts like they do on the other side, but that might be the best route to go as far as safety goes. And so we would just have to look at that, and of course, all those things cost money, and the state would certainly have to take that into consideration. Any other questions?
Thank you, Chief.
Welcome.
Do you have something, Matt? Oh, I thought you were going to say something. Anything else from staff? Anything else from council? No? Motion to adjourn.
So made.
Second.
All in favor?
Aye.
Opposed?